Deadpool and Wolverine is about to open around the world, and I had the fortune to see it early, so without going into spoilers, as I would not want to rob anyone of the joy of discovering all the surprises the movie offers in advance, I'll answer all the meta questions surrounding the movie I know you all have. So, let's dive in. The first question on most people's mind will be, is the movie woke? To which the answer is, nope. There's no identity politics or other messaging that we've gotten from Marvel for years on end now. None at all. Coast is clear, sweet baby ink not detected, if you catch my drift. Second, is the movie any good? Why, yes it is. It's the best Marvel movie since Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Spider-Man No Way Home, so in my opinion, there are now 3 good post-Endgame MCU movies. Now, an argument can be made that both Guardians 3 and No Way Home are better movies than Deadpool and Wolverine from a purely writing technical and story structural perspective. But in my book, this was by far the most entertaining of the 3. Deadpool and Wolverine is just unbridled joy. Next, many will wonder, what kind of homework is required to understand or even enjoy this movie? And just to illustrate what I mean with that question, those who went into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness without having seen WandaVision first were a bit lost, even if they had seen all of the MCU movies leading up to it. Because, as it turned out, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness wasn't the sequel to the previous Doctor Strange movie, nor did it follow from the events of the previously released MCU movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, which one would assume it did since that also dealt with the multiverse. But instead, it was the sequel to the Disney Plus series WandaVision, which, as it turned out, was the homework and required viewing for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, with the context of the question clarified, what homework is required to understand Deadpool and Wolverine? Well, without going into any spoilers, I will say that this movie is, first and foremost, a love letter and tribute to the Marvel movies made by Fox. So they are actually more important than any MCU movies here, let alone any MCU series. As an absolute bare minimum, you need to have seen Deadpool and Logan. Without those, you'll be completely lost. But if you have seen those, and on top of that, you've seen a couple of X-Men movies featuring Wolverine and an Avengers movie or two, then you've got all the basics needed to enjoy this movie. Though obviously, countless references will fly right over your head if that's all you've seen. If you've seen those basics though, your enjoyment will only increase with the more you've seen of the earlier MCU movies, the earlier Fox Marvel movies, and in fact, Marvel movies made by others than Fox and Disney as well. And if you've spent the past decade following news about the corporate merger between Disney and Fox, as well as news and rumors about movies in development, even those that didn't make it all the way to the finish line, then so much the better. And then we got to talk about Loki, you know, the Disney Plus series. This is not a spoiler because it's revealed in the trailer, so you should know already that the TVA features in the movie, and the TVA was introduced in Loki. Does that mean that both seasons of Loki are homework and required watching? I would say technically no, as the bare minimum of what the TVA does is explained in the movie, but it is so quickly breezed through that you will feel as if you've missed out on something. Therefore, I would say that while Loki is not technically required viewing, you won't feel that you're missing out on anything if you at the very least have seen the first half of Season 1. That would tell you everything you need to know about the TVA. In general though, the more MCU and Fox Marvel movies you've seen, the deeper your enjoyment of Deadpool and Wolverine will be. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, at least to some, should you support it? Because I know many out there have issues with what has happened to Disney under Bob Iger, and they don't want to support anything Disney now, so should you spend money on this Disney movie? That is, of course, ultimately entirely up to you, but in my opinion, yes, you should, first and foremost, because this is a really fun movie. But there's more reasons beyond that. Kevin Feige's name may be listed in the credits, and Bob Iger will no doubt try to steal credit as well. But the fact of the matter is that this is a Ryan Reynolds production through and through. A production that only happened because Bob Chapek greenlit it during his brief tenure, after Kevin Feige, by several accounts, tried to block it for years on end. And this being a Ryan Reynolds production is key to why it's so good and why it should be supported. Just like the aforementioned Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Spider-Man No Way Home, this movie is so good because it was made by a creative team that knows what they're doing, and not Kevin Feige's merry band of woke fools that have ran the MCU into the ground with their DEI-driven storytelling. That is precisely why it is important that this movie, with no DEI in it, succeeds and does well. If it is a giant hit at the box office, that is a data point that the entire world, let alone the industry, will see and draw conclusions from. Sure, the activists in Disney may be in denial about those conclusions, but that is what makes the transparency of the data point all the more important, and why this movie must do well, which I hope you will contribute towards that it does. That, then, should hopefully answer the most pressing questions you had, and hopefully aid in your decision whether or not to see the movie. So, will you? And if you have, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments.